Today I'm going to talk a little bit about why struggle for feedback when you can use Flipgrid. My name is Peter Flynn and I teach at Barwise Middle School, and I use Flipgrid in several Texas and U.S. history lessons. And this year I'm going to go ahead and expand that my Flipgrid content to give my students greater opportunity to express themselves in their mastering of the content and learning objectives. And I'll probably be doing a lot of app smashing with it as well. I began using Flipgrid last year. It allows my students some freedom to express themselves. I know that some of my students were a little shy behind getting behind the camera, but I think this year we'll kind of teach them the pluses and minuses to Flipgrid. Why do I use Flipgrid? Well, it's very simple. It allows my students the voice. Typically, they're able to give a little bit more richness in their reflection. They give them a little bit more confidence. They get great discussions and feedbacks when we show some of the Flipgrids, and this allows them to get a little bit more, show a little bit more self-expression, building their ability to master the content. This is our Flipgrid's mission statement, and I found that it was really interesting was to meet some people all around the world using Flipgrid. And this year, one of the things that I'm going to try to do is try to connect with some of those other teachers around the world and give my students an opportunity to connect with them and share their ideas about what they're learning. One of the things that I really liked was Kayla's thing about catching Flipgrid fever, and so this was one of her direct quotes that I think was very positive, and I couldn't have said it any better than myself. So here is our step 2. It's prepare the rocket, set up your account, and begin your journey. It's very simple. All you got to do is come up here and click on the sign up today. And I found that was a pretty easy way to do it. I have a Google account. Our school is a one-on-one, and so we use Google Chromebooks. So my students were able to sign on relatively easy, and I was able to sign on as an educator. Additionally, as I said, you have an opportunity. You can also use other ways of getting into logging in just by clicking onto this site here. Of course, I'm a big Giphy file guy, so please forgive me if you're evaluating this, but I like to celebrate Flipgrid. So your next step is to build your grid, and so I found that this was pretty easy at the beginning. Of course, I loved it at first. I had to go ahead and just create that one Flipgrid because I was a non-paying member. So thank you, Flipgrid and Microsoft, for joining forces, because now that Flipgrid is free, I can build as many grids as I want. And I'm really excited this year to probably start sharing some of my ideas. And I'll be teaching some Flipgrid training at the regional level and also at the Technology in Action in Denton, Texas here in July. So I'm going to be pushing Flipgrid and how you can app smash Flipgrid into a lot of other learning opportunities. So let's go ahead and step 3, get on the rocket. How do I create my first grid? Well, it's very simple. I love it the way they create this. You get a selection. Can't go wrong with that. I typically use the classroom one, but I've kind of played with the grid pals. I've got a friend that I'm doing a grid pal with, but this has unlimited potential, and I think that eventually even businesses, if they're smart, will get onto this idea of Flipgridding. It's a great way to give feedback after your learning experience. One thing that changed this year is that if you live in Europe, you must now check the lower box requiring your email down here. That's really important, and so I want to make that very clear to some of our teachers that are educators that are outside the U.S. Very simple. Once you've created your first grid, go ahead and hit the All Set button. Typically, you have to put in your own little password. I didn't find that was too difficult. Of course, Anytime you want to close down your grid, you can either make it active or inactive, and also it gives you options about how you can edit, add co-pilots, which are your friends or colleagues or other educators that need to help you build your grid. You can duplicate the grid. You can create grid notifications, or if you're just not happy with your grids, you can delete the grid. So here's an example of how you would add a co-pilot. It's relatively simple. All you have to do is go ahead and put that person's email address in there, and then send that link to them. In the grid areas, I like to start off, it defaults to our classroom. I immediately go ahead and try to change that grid name, okay? And for me, I like to go ahead and put a description in there, or at least a purpose. I know I'm a little weak in getting the Texas TEKS in there, but that's one of my long-term goals, is to update all my Flipgrids so that they meet the Texas standards, so that when I start sharing these in the library, the teachers will be able to understand where it's coming from. One of the interesting things that I noticed that when I started using Flipgrid was you just can't dump a regular pic in there. So 15 to 500 pics applies. I use Microsoft Paint 3D to edit my pics. That seems to work. You lose a little bit of the fuzzy wuzzy stuff, but I think that it works really well. So then you can start a discussion with a topic. So you have to create a topic. So that's what we're going to do next, which is get ready for the blast off. How do I create my first topic? Well, I typically brainstorm, but let's just wait for it. It's going to be legendary. Here are the topics. There's a topic of discussions or questions or themes or challenges, anything you can think of that would interest your students or attendees. I've built one for my Region 9 and my TCON. I hope they'll enjoy it. Put a little humor into it, and hopefully they'll find that I have a little bit of a lighter side. So you create your topic by basically starting that topic. You type it in. You go ahead and decide the length of your video. It typically defaults to 1 minute and 30 seconds. I would keep that at 1 minute and 30 seconds for your first grid, because that's a lot. If you're an educator, that's a lot of grids or videos that you're going to watch during your grading period, or if you're just evaluating and trying to get feedback from your students. I teach almost 200 plus students, and I even use this during our Eagle period for our mentoring and stuff. So my kids are typically sending me all kinds of different grids. As far as the feedback, I had to delete some of them because I didn't like the way this year's grids were. So you can change the privacy status by moving the slider over. That's really interesting. It'll basically click the active status. That's how I always try to do, and then I don't change it until the end of the school year. That's my personal opinion. If you want to add a resource, you can add a record video. This is really good. You just want to make it your own. You can upload a video if you've already created your own video. You can add a video if you're using some kind of YouTube or Vimeo topic that you want to talk about. This has got great resources. You can upload an image and ask your students to go ahead and comment on that image. You can add a Giphy file. And also, if you're really into emojis, you can use the emojis. You can select a topic resource. You can record your questions, upload a video from your own files. It's very simple, and that's what I like about it. It's very user-friendly. Students can have fun. You can control this ability. I kind of control it a little bit at the first, partially because of the fact I want to see what my kids are like at the beginning of the school year. Then I kind of loosen up the reins and let them fly. You can give students feedback as well by selecting the basic option. That's pretty simple. And then students, you can kind of evaluate by clicking and evaluating each of those. I went ahead and created a Screen-O-Matic video, so if you want to go ahead and rewatch that, that's fine. What is an idea topic? Well, it's simple. It's a preloaded idea. It gives you some ideas that you can do. Students can go ahead and share a 15-second video blurb, and I find that really useful. Step 5, blast off. How can I enrich myself and build better Flipgrids? Well, Flipgrid has probably one of the better educational online tutorials, and they're very active. I love that. You can click on this particular site, and it'll let you go ahead and do some app smashing ideas. Of course, we don't want to forget Discovery Library. I have used a little bit of it. I'm still playing with it a little bit to see what it'll work for me, but I have kind of contributed to it, especially in the area of Texas history for those that are Texas history teachers. So hopefully that was. How do I use Flipgrid? Well, not all of this is my idea. I kind of looked around the websites and saw how other teachers were using it. I plan to use some of it. I'm not somebody who does a lot of journaling. I don't do any kind of yearbook stuff, but a lot of these other things that I would do, like historical moment feedback, time capsule videos, explaining timelines or eras, or era, depending on where you're from. These are all things great for current events. I use it for just kind of the culmination or review of learning that we did in the school. Here are some sharing of my own Flipgrids that I put out there. I think I put them out on the library, but people are more than welcome to go ahead and use this if they'd like. I'm going to share this with my TCON and Regional 9 staff attendees, so that's why a lot of this is in here. Basically, I love to be certified. Thank you guys. Y'all have been great at supporting me in my Flipgrid journey. Thank you for being very patient, because I've been working on so many other things like Wiser and GoFormative and Flipgrid. You just get pulled in so many different directions during the summer. But I'm striving to want to be one of the great educators and contributors to Flipgrid, and I hope I don't let you guys down. But I want to just show that for my folks that are going to come to TCON and Region 9, so that they understand how to be a Flipgrid educator too. And last but not least, I love the website as far as or all the resources that are out there. I just continually keep finding more material, and I'm running out of spots to put this stuff, so I've actually started my own resource site for educators to kind of tap into. Last but not least, I want to continue to tell people to continually join. A big shout out to my good friend Lisa. She's a formative certified educator. So I was really astounded that she also was a Flipgrid rock star, and I hope someday to join in that exclusive group, because I think it's just a really great opportunity. And row the boat, you Minnesota folks. Appreciate y'all up there. And that ends my presentation. Yes, I am done. And if you need to get a hold of me, I'm at pflynn at wfisd.net, history tech teacher at LSU Tiger Techs, long story on the Tigers. And that is my website, so if you're more interested, I'm always trying to work on that. I know I'm weak in getting that done this time, but hopefully before I get to beginning of school, I'm going to push it. So thank you guys for all the great support that you have given to me. Really, I'm going to try to push the Flipgrid to other educators. I know there's quite a few that are using it in our district, but I also know that there's a lot of schools in our regional area that are just kind of getting to that point, and I'd like to see if we could grow a regional Flipgrid community here in North Texas. Anyway, that concludes my presentation, and I hope you enjoy it.